For centuries, whispers of lost worlds have captivated humanity. We've chased the legend of Atlantis, a drowned city of unimaginable splendor, through ancient texts and modern dreams, often imagining it as the ultimate lost paradise. But what if the true cradle of civilization, a place of profound wisdom and pristine natural beauty, wasn't in the Atlantic, but hidden somewhere in the vast Pacific, or even more remarkably, directly beneath our very feet? What if a mythical continent, once teeming with advanced life and ancient wisdom, found an unlikely and enduring home not in remote history books alone, but deep in the heart of the American imagination? Prepare to journey into a fascinating intersection of science, spirituality, and national identity as we explore Lemuria, a truly unique, drowned Pacific paradise. This documentary uncovers how this extraordinary concept, from its humble origins as a scientific theory to its grand transformation into a spiritual promised land, profoundly shaped American history, its burgeoning occult movements, and its diverse popular culture. This is the untold story of a continent that ostensibly vanished from the maps, only to rise again, stronger and more vibrant than ever, in the minds, myths, and collective narratives of a burgeoning nation. Introduction: Whispers of a Sunken World. Across the vast, inscrutable oceans and through the enduring mists of time, humanity has always been profoundly captivated by the intriguing idea of lost worlds. These submerged or forgotten lands often serve as powerful symbols of a golden age, a simpler time, or a source of forgotten wisdom. The legendary city of Atlantis, depicted across various cultures as a grand and technologically advanced civilization, swallowed by the sea, frequently dominates our collective imagination, a benchmark for all other lost places. But what if there was another lost continent, a land equally grand, equally enigmatic, that instead of fading into obscurity, found an entirely unexpected destiny far from its supposed geological origins? This is precisely the intriguing story of Lemuria, a purported drowned Pacific paradise, and its quite remarkable, peculiar journey. It transformed from a niche scientific curiosity into a cornerstone of American culture, its spiritual landscape, and even the very fabric of its national identity. We will meticulously explore how this particular mythical land captured the hearts and minds of a nation undergoing rapid transformation, evolving through vastly different interpretations, and ultimately becoming a significant, if often overlooked, part of an alternative American narrative that still resonates today. Its influence stretches far beyond the pages of esoteric texts, touching popular literature, communal beliefs, and even architectural inspiration in unexpected corners of the country. Birth of a continent. Science and spirit intertwined. Our fascinating tale begins not in the sprawling vastness of the Pacific Ocean, but in the distant and historically rich Indian Ocean during the mid-19th century. It was here that British zoologist Philip Sclater, immersed in the scientific puzzles of his era, found himself perplexed by the scattered and anomalous distribution of lemurs across disparate landmasses like Madagascar, India, and Africa. To resolve this biogeographical enigma, he proposed a radical yet elegant solution: a now submerged land bridge, or even an entire continent that once connected these regions, allowing for the widespread migration of these unique primates. He logically named this theoretical landmass Lemuria, directly referencing the animals whose distribution he sought to explain. What started as a purely scientific hypothesis, however, soon transcended the realm of dry academic discourse, stepping firmly and dramatically into the domain of culture and burgeoning spirituality. The burgeoning Theosophical movement, an influential esoteric philosophy of the late 19th century, led by its enigmatic and charismatic co-founder Helena Blavatsky, eagerly incorporated Sclater's continent into her elaborate and sweeping cosmic history of humanity. In Theosophy, Lemuria wasn't merely a geological formation or a lost land bridge. It was elevated to a profound mystical status as the birthplace of the third root race, the very cradle where humankind was believed to have first attained physical form, consciousness, and embarked upon its long evolutionary journey. Yet even within the complex tenets of Theosophy, Lemuria's ultimate status as a true Garden of Eden remains somewhat ambiguous, often overshadowed by the more widely known and perpetually celebrated legend of Atlantis, which typically held the primary position of humanity's true golden age. This subtle imbalance, however, was about to dramatically shift as fascinating tales of Sclater's lost Indian Ocean continent began circulating with unexpected fervor, surprisingly, in the young, ambitious, and spiritually open-minded United States. Lemuria's American Journey, a nation's quest for a grand past. The closing decades of the 19th century in America represented a period of immense social, economic, and cultural transformation, unlike almost any before or since. On the cusp of global prominence, with its manifest destiny seemingly fulfilled and its industries booming, the rapidly expanding nation desperately sought a historical narrative that could rival the deep antiquity and grandeur of the Old World. Americans yearned for a past that would solidify its vision as a chosen people living in a divinely ordained promised land, stretching literally from sea to shining sea. This pivotal period also witnessed a flourishing esoteric boom, a widespread and intense fascination with occult practices, spiritual philosophies, and alternative forms of knowledge, with contemporary commentators even observing that America was quite literally overrun with messiahs. In this fertile intellectual and spiritual landscape, where old traditions were questioned and new ideas eagerly embraced, Blavatsky's intricate Theosophy and Ignatius Donnelly's blockbuster book on Atlantis both thrived, captivating a public hungry for hidden truths and ancient mysteries. Donnelly's widely read and influential work, in a passing but ultimately crucial suggestion, mentioned a drowned Pacific continent that science supposedly called Lemuria, subtly adding that it was here where the human race was claimed to have originated. This seemingly minor geographical repositioning from the Indian to the Pacific Ocean began Lemuria's significant and lasting migration in the popular American imagination. Initially, though, Lemuria struggled to capture the same widespread public fascination and emotional resonance, largely eclipsed by the more dramatic and heavily publicized narrative of the mighty Atlantis. As William Churchward lamented in a telling letter to the Brooklyn Times in 1890, while everyone readily knew Atlantis, who can offhand draw the lines of Lemuria? He argued that it clearly lacked the compelling popular proponents, the Plato of Athens and Donnelly of Minneapolis, who had championed Atlantis to truly make it a household name, at least for a time, before its American transformation. California's ancient roots. Lemuria finds its home. The 1930s marked a crucial and transformative turning point for Lemuria's fate within the American psyche. A series of deliberate cultural labors of loss securely, albeit eccentrically, inserted Lemuria into the American cult milieu, establishing a unique position it remarkably continues to hold to this very day. In 1908, San Francisco occultist Adelia Taffender, drawing heavily on established theosophical concepts, but with a distinctly American twist, gave Lemuria a new and deeply resonant identity that appealed directly to local aspirations and nascent regional pride. She boldly claimed that this vast continent flourished an astonishing 18 million years ago, and, more strikingly, that California was the very center of a civilization that predated Atlantis by thousands of years. For Taffender, the glorious land of California stood as the sole enduring monument to Lemuria's ancient grandeur, imbuing the Golden State with a profound, hidden history that stretched back to primordial times. This burgeoning Californian connection was further reinforced by Frederick Spencer Oliver's influential 1894 work, A Dweller on Two Planets. Oliver, a young teenager from Eureka, California, claimed to channel Philos the Tibetan, a mysterious and ancient entity identified as a former Lemurian, who was now believed to inhabit the mystical depths of Mount Shasta. This majestic peak in Northern California was already gaining a reputation as a sacred site, believed to house a great brotherhood dedicated to preserving ancient wisdom. This was the first enduring and widely recognized link between the lost continent of Lemuria and one of America's most iconic and spiritually charged mountains. However, it was Wishar S. Survey, also known as H. Spencer Lewis, the powerful and influential founder of the ancient and mystical order Rosicrucis, Amorc, who truly cemented Lemuria's enduring place in the broader American imagination. His 1931 classic, Lemuria, The Lost Continent of the Pacific, directly linked Lemuria with the earliest history of the Americas, asserting the provocative idea that the New World might in fact be the oldest territory on Earth. In the midst of the profound anxieties and pervasive uncertainties of the Great Depression, Survey's vision of a great ancient American civilization, with its remnants possibly surviving into the present, offered a powerful and much-needed dose of hope, national pride, and spiritual meaning to a struggling populace. He boldly proposed that the mythical Garden of Eden wasn't located in some distant Oriental country, as habitually thought, but rather right here, firmly rooted in the United States, specifically along its verdant Pacific coast. The convergence of Mu and Mount Shasta, a lasting legacy. Survey's innovations in shaping the Lemurian narrative extended further, solidifying its place within American esoteric thought and popular belief systems. He casually yet effectively connected Lemuria to Mu, a name that first surfaced in the 1860s through Mayanist studies, and was later forcefully appropriated by Colonel James Churchward in the 1920s as a distinct, vast, and submerged Pacific continent, the so-called motherland of all civilization, believed to have extended 6,000 miles across the Pacific. Survey's seemingly incidental linkage enabled the lasting and widespread identification of Lemuria with Mu, a connection that persists among occultists and even in academic discussions about lost continents to this very day, merging two distinct myths into one powerful narrative. But perhaps Survey's most profound and ultimately enduring assertion was the captivating idea that descendants of this former Garden of Eden might still be seen periodically emerging from their mysterious subterranean homes within Northern California's iconic Mount Shasta. He dramatically dated Lemuria's catastrophic destruction much more recently than scientific theories suggested, placing it between 50,000 to 25,000 years ago, explaining that its advanced inhabitants had migrated to different parts of the world, including the nascent Americas, thus linking Amerindians to this ancient lineage. This captivating vision resonated deeply in a California that was rapidly consolidating its status in the American imagination as the Golden State, a dynamic land of opportunity and a burgeoning haven for new religions, spiritual movements, and utopian ideals. Mount Shasta, a majestic volcanic peak, long sacred in Native American collective memory and folklore, was thus transformed into a potent new beacon for the American occult community, its hallowed status profoundly affirmed as a living remnant of the long-lost continent, a place where hidden truths and ancient beings still resided. Lemurian echoes. From believers to popular culture. The immediate and widespread impact of these compelling ideas was profound. Barely a year after Survey's influential book was published, the Los Angeles Times carried a compelling story by Edward Lancer, a California businessman, detailing his own visit to Mount Shasta, and his firm conviction that the last descendants of the first inhabitants of this earth, the Lemurians, indeed lived secreted away within the mountain slopes. This widespread media attention, alongside ongoing spiritual fascination, fueled a significant surge of Lemuria seekers who actively besieged the mystical mountain, hoping for a glimpse of the hidden race. Foremost among these zealous followers were adherents of the immensely popular Mighty I Am movement, which converged around the dramatic spiritual teachings of Guy Ballard. Ballard famously claimed to have experienced vivid visions of both Mu and Atlantis, guided directly by the revered ascended master Saint Germain, from deep within Mount Shasta's inner realms. His published works, such as Unveiled Mysteries, offered a potent and volatile mixture of spiritual hope and fervent patriotism, providing solace and profound purpose to a nation grappling with the profound anxieties and economic downturn of the Great Depression. Even today, decades later, Mount Shasta remains almost inseparable from the concept of Lemuria in countless occult publications, New Age spiritual practices, and local folklore. Spiritual healers, for instance, conduct elaborate Lemurian Atlantean vision wheels there, aiming to access Akashic records believed to be housed within the mountain's core, containing the full history of the cosmos. And beyond the realm of esoteric beliefs, Lemuria occasionally surfaces in mainstream media, demonstrating its lingering cultural imprint. As recently as February 18, 2000, the San Francisco Chronicle's History Corner California Legends recounted the intriguing tale of J.C. Brown, who claimed to have met a Lemurian deep inside Mount Shasta while prospecting for gold in 1904. As the column's raconteur, Jim Silverman, succinctly concluded, "Real or not, Lemurian legends make good stories," affirming their enduring appeal. Reclaiming Lemuria, race, adventure, and sci-fi. The allure of Lemuria as a drowned Pacific paradise extended far beyond purely occult and spiritual circles, finding fertile ground in other cultural productions. In 1933, Scottish journalist and amateur folklorist Lewis Spence, widely known for his numerous books on Atlantis, turned his keen attention to Sclater's lost continent, attempting to rescue it from what he saw as third-rate imaginations of occultists. Spence, while critically dismissing the often sensationalized occult interpretations, nonetheless used ancient Polynesian legends and traditions to argue for a Pacific Lemuria that was, in his view, genuinely inhabited by humans before its catastrophic submergence. Crucially, both Spence and later Churchward significantly transformed the dominant Lemurian narrative in a way that resonated with emerging racial ideologies of the time. They boldly claimed that the dominant race of Mu Lemuria was a white, fair-haired race, effectively bestowing an antediluvian past on white peoples, and controversially crediting them with authoring the world's most ancient civilizations, an achievement historically associated with Sumerians, Egyptians, and Chinese. This peculiar reappropriation of Lemuria serves as a telling, albeit eccentric, contribution to the consolidation of modern white racism, providing a pristine beginning for the white race. By the 1930s, Lemuria also permeated popular culture, particularly appearing in the burgeoning lost race adventure story genre. These tales typically featured bands of intrepid, generally male and always white, adventurers who set out in search of, or accidentally stumbled upon, rumored lost civilizations or forgotten races in remote, uncharted territories. From G. Firth Scott's 1898 novel, The Last Lemurian, featuring battles against an evil queen of Lemuria, to Lynn Carter's Thongor of Lemuria series in the 1960s, the continent became a fantastical backdrop for heroic struggles against monstrous beasts, often incorporating futuristic technologies, eventually morphing into more advanced science fiction narratives of intergalactic conflict between Lemurians and Atlanteans. Eccentric echoes, enduring mysteries. The off-modern and undeniably eccentric penetration of Lemuria into American collective memory is perhaps nowhere more vividly exemplified than by the infamous Shaver mystery of the 1940s. Richard Shaver, a Pennsylvania steel mill worker, gained widespread notoriety by insisting he was a racial memory receptacle for a being named Mutan Mion, who lived thousands of years ago in Sub-Atlan, one of the great cities of ancient Lemuria. Shaver's bizarre yet compelling stories, serialized in the popular American science fiction magazine Amazing Stories, depicted Lemuria not as a drowned paradise, but as a vast subterranean world inhabited by giant beings with access to incredibly advanced technologies like teleportation gadgets, rock-piercing rays, and space rockets. His claims, which created what Life magazine famously termed the most celebrated rumpus that rocked the science fiction world, added tremendously to the magazine's circulation, demonstrating the public's appetite for such fantastical tales. Perhaps even more bizarrely, a very real trace of Lemuria can be found in a quixotic file within the official U.S. State Department archives. In the 1950s, Gertrude Norris Meeker, self-proclaimed Governor General of Atlantis, Lemuria, sent formal correspondence to the U.S. government claiming a group of islands off the east coast of Panama as her private principality, insisting they were undeniable remnants of the lost continents. The State Department, in a politely worded but firm official response, clearly stated it did not recognize any so-called private dynasty or principality named Atlantis Lemuria, highlighting the collision of official bureaucracy with alternative belief systems. These instances, while undeniably fringe and often amusing in retrospect, powerfully highlight how deeply ingrained the concept of Lemuria had become, finding its way into the most unlikely corners of American life and administration, even leading to official diplomatic exchanges. The unsinkable dream, from the early scientific musings of zoologists to the grand pronouncements of mystics and spiritual leaders, from the thrilling pages of pulp fiction to the surprising corridors of government administration, Lemuria has charted an extraordinary and often unexpected course through the American consciousness. It became more than just a theoretical lost land. It transformed into a vast canvas for collective dreams of an ancient, glorious past, a chosen national destiny, and a deep-seated spiritual truth hidden just beneath the surface of everyday reality. Whether believed as a literal fragment of forgotten history, embraced as a profound esoteric revelation, offering keys to cosmic understanding, or simply cherished as a captivating and fantastical narrative that sparks the imagination, Lemuria's persistent presence underscores a fundamental and universal human longing for origin, for hidden knowledge, and for a world beyond the visible and mundane. The drowned Pacific paradise, a place that exists as much in the boundless realm of human imagination as in any verifiable geographical reality, has ultimately found its most vibrant, enduring, and perhaps most meaningful home, not in the actual depths of the ocean, but in the rich, evolving, and often wonderfully eccentric collective consciousness of America, continuing to inspire and intrigue generations.